You drove on their highway today. You just did not know it. That stretch of the New Jersey Turnpike you take to work? A family controls the warehouses lining both sides of it. The cable television signal that entertained your parents for 30 years? Built by a family from Long Island City who wired every living room in the Garden State. The soup in your pantry? Made in Camden by descendants of a chemist who died over a century ago. The hospital where your child was born? Likely named after a family that has been quietly running this state since before your grandparents were alive. Most people think of New Jersey as a pass-through, a place you drive across to get somewhere else. But that is exactly what makes it one of the most valuable pieces of real estate on the planet. And a small number of families figured that out a very long time ago. Today, we count down the 12 richest families in New Jersey. Number 12. The Alfieri family. The warehouse warlords. While most people were chasing dot-com stocks and cryptocurrency speculation, the Alfieri family was quietly buying the most boring, unglamorous asset in America: industrial warehouses. They spent decades accumulating massive distribution centers across New Jersey's logistics corridor, the dense network of highways and rail lines that connects the port of Newark to the rest of the eastern seaboard. Their portfolio now exceeds $440 million in assessed value. And their single most important tenant is Amazon. The Alfieri family leases approximately 1 million square feet of warehouse space to the largest e-commerce company on Earth. Every time you click Add to Cart and select Next Day Delivery, there is a meaningful probability that your package passes through an Alfieri-owned building. The family structured their holdings as a tightly controlled private real estate operation. They never went public. They never took on outside investors. They never sold a single property to a REIT. By maintaining absolute private ownership, they avoided the short-term pressures that force publicly traded landlords to sell assets during downturns. They simply held, collected rent, and waited for the e-commerce revolution to make their warehouses the most critical infrastructure in the state. The Alfieri family recognized something before almost anyone else in real estate. The shift from retail stores to online shopping would not reduce the need for physical space. It would massively increase it. Every dollar that moved from a shopping mall to a website required 3 times the warehouse square footage to fulfill. They bet their entire fortune on the thesis that New Jersey's location, sitting directly between 70 million consumers in the New York and Philadelphia metro areas, would make their warehouses irreplaceable. They were right. The public assumes that billionaires live in Manhattan penthouses and Silicon Valley estates. The Alfieri family proved that dynastic wealth can be built in the industrial parks along Exit 8A of the New Jersey Turnpike. And now, the family is locked in a succession-style legal battle, with siblings suing each other over control of the empire. The patriarch built a fortune in the most unglamorous corner of real estate. His heirs are now fighting over it in the courtroom. Number 11. The Kellogg family, the Wall Street ghost. Peter Kellogg is one of the most successful Wall Street traders who has ever lived, and almost nobody has heard of him. He built Spear, Leeds, and Kellogg into one of the largest specialist trading firms on the New York Stock Exchange, handling an enormous percentage of all daily trading volume on the exchange floor. In the year 2000, Kellogg executed one of the most lucrative exits in financial history. He sold the firm to Goldman Sachs for $6.5 billion. Peter Kellogg's personal share of that transaction was approximately $3 billion in a single day. After the Goldman sale, Kellogg did not reinvest in another volatile trading operation. He became an intensely private investor, allocating his billions across diversified assets with zero public exposure. He does not manage outside money. He does not run a hedge fund. He does not appear on CNBC. His net worth, estimated between $4.7 and $5.4 billion, grows in complete silence while more famous billionaires chase headlines. Kellogg channeled an enormous portion of his fortune into philanthropic ventures that most billionaires would never consider. He donated hundreds of millions to animal welfare, specifically to the ASPCA and equestrian causes. He is one of the largest individual donors to animal protection in American history. He also quietly purchased prime coastal real estate in Mantoloking, one of the most exclusive barrier island communities on the Jersey Shore, securing a physical position on the coastline that money alone cannot typically buy. The general public has never heard the name Peter Kellogg. They assume the wealthiest people on Wall Street are the ones who appear on magazine covers and give keynote speeches at Davos. Kellogg proved that the greatest fortunes on the trading floor belong to the operators who build the machinery of the exchange itself, not the hedge fund managers who merely place bets on it. He owned the casino, then sold it, and disappeared into the most exclusive stretch of the Jersey Shore. Number 10. The Dolan family, the architects of American television. In the late 1960s, Charles Dolan was a struggling documentary filmmaker in New York when he secured a franchise to wire Lower Manhattan for cable television. The infrastructure he built for that small franchise became the foundation for something that would change American culture forever. Dolan invented HBO, the home box office, the first premium cable television network in history. He pioneered the radical idea that Americans would pay a monthly fee to watch uninterrupted movies and exclusive programming in their own living rooms. He then built Cablevision into a regional media empire that wired millions of homes across New York and New Jersey. The Dolan family protected their empire through the most powerful moat in media: physical cable infrastructure. Once a cable company buries its lines under streets and connects millions of homes, the switching costs are astronomical. Competitors cannot simply dig up every road in New Jersey to lay competing lines. This created a geographic monopoly that generated predictable, recurring subscription revenue for decades. When the family finally sold Cablevision to Altus in 2016 for $17.7 billion, they had extracted maximum value from an asset that competitors could never replicate. Charles Dolan did not just build a cable company. He fundamentally rewired how Americans consume entertainment. HBO, the product of his imagination, spawned an entire industry of premium content. The Sopranos, the defining cultural portrait of New Jersey itself, was broadcast on a network that Dolan created. The family leveraged their media empire to acquire Madison Square Garden, the New York Knicks, and the New York Rangers, transforming themselves from cable operators into the absolute monarchs of New York sports and entertainment. People associate the Dolan name with the Knicks and Madison Square Garden. But the true foundation of their multi-billion-dollar dynasty is the invisible cable running under the streets of northern New Jersey. Charles Dolan, who passed away in December 2024, did not just deliver television to your living room. He invented the business model that made modern streaming possible. Every time you pay a monthly subscription to watch content on your screen, you are living in the economic architecture that Charles Dolan designed. Number 9. The Wilf family, the survivors who bought the NFL. Harry Wilf and his brother Joseph were Holocaust survivors. They arrived in America from Poland with nothing, settling in Hillside, New Jersey, in the years after World War II. Starting with a single modest real estate investment, they built Garden Homes Development into one of the largest privately held residential real estate companies in the northeastern United States. Over the following decades, the Wilf family constructed and managed tens of thousands of apartment units across New Jersey, New York, and Virginia, quietly amassing a fortune estimated between $4 and $5 billion. The Wilfs protected their empire through the oldest real estate strategy in existence: they never sold. They built apartment complexes, filled them with tenants, collected rent, and reinvested the cash flow into acquiring more properties. By maintaining private ownership and avoiding public markets, they were never forced to liquidate during downturns. Their portfolio grew steadily through every recession, every market crash, and every real estate cycle for over 60 years. In 2005, the Wilf family purchased the Minnesota Vikings for approximately $600 million. By 2024, the franchise was valued at over $4.8 billion. That is a return of roughly 700% on a single asset. The Vikings' purchase transformed the family from regional landlords into national power brokers. They leveraged their NFL ownership to secure a publicly funded $1.1 billion stadium, effectively using taxpayer money to inflate the value of their private investment. The public sees the Wilfs as lucky investors who bought an NFL team. They do not see the darker chapter. In 2013, a New Jersey court found the Wilf family liable for civil racketeering, fraud, and breach of fiduciary duty in a partnership dispute, resulting in a judgment of $84.5 million. The case revealed allegations of systematic financial manipulation spanning decades. The family survived the scandal, kept the Vikings, and continued building wealth. Their story is not a fairy tale. It is a raw demonstration of how dynastic real estate empires are actually constructed. Number 8. The Harris family. The man who bought everything. Josh Harris co-founded Apollo Global Management, one of the most aggressive and feared private equity firms on Wall Street. Apollo specializes in acquiring distressed companies, restructuring their operations, and extracting maximum financial returns. Under Harris's leadership, Apollo grew to manage over $600 billion in assets, making it one of the largest alternative investment firms in human history. Harris's personal net worth is estimated between $10 and $11 billion. Private equity generates wealth through a structure that is virtually impossible for regulators to dismantle. Apollo collects management fees on hundreds of billions in committed capital, regardless of whether their investments succeed or fail. This guaranteed fee income provides a cash flow floor that insulates Harris from market volatility. Even during the 2008 financial crisis, Apollo continued collecting fees on its existing funds while simultaneously deploying new capital to acquire distressed assets at historic discounts. Harris did not just accumulate financial wealth. He systematically purchased the physical identity of New Jersey. In 2013, he acquired the New Jersey Devils for approximately $320 million. He then purchased the Philadelphia 76ers and a controlling interest in the Prudential Center, the arena that anchors Newark's downtown. In 2023, he set an all-time record by purchasing the Washington Commanders for $6.05 billion, the highest price ever paid for a professional sports franchise. Harris is not merely collecting teams. He is purchasing the civic infrastructure that defines entire metropolitan regions. The public views sports team owners as wealthy hobbyists who buy teams for fun. Harris approaches team ownership as a private equity play. He acquires undervalued franchises, improves their operations, and benefits from the relentless appreciation of sports media rights. The New Jersey Devils he purchased for $320 million are now worth well over $1 billion. He applied Wall Street discipline to the sports world, and in doing so, he effectively purchased the beating heart of Newark's economy. Number 7. The Kushner family. The empire of second chances. Charles Kushner was a Holocaust survivor's son who built one of the largest real estate empires on the East Coast. Starting from modest beginnings in Elizabeth, New Jersey, he developed Kushner Companies into a sprawling portfolio of apartment complexes, office buildings, and retail properties spanning multiple states. At its peak, the company controlled over 25,000 apartment units and millions of square feet of commercial space. The Kushner fortune was nearly destroyed. In 2005, Charles Kushner was sentenced to 2 years in federal prison for illegal campaign contributions, tax evasion, and witness tampering in one of the most sensational white-collar crime cases in New Jersey history. The empire was handed to his son, Jared, who was just 24 years old. Instead of collapsing, the younger Kushner stabilized the portfolio, renegotiated critical debt, and began an aggressive expansion. Since 2016, the family's estimated net worth has surged from $1.8 billion to over $7 billion, fueled by massive development projects and international investment relationships. The Kushner family's most audacious play is the One Journal Square development in Jersey City, a massive billion-dollar twin tower project that will reshape the Jersey City skyline. They are literally building the physical landmarks that will define New Jersey's urban future. Simultaneously, the family leveraged political connections to build international business relationships across the Middle East, creating financial pipelines that extend far beyond the borders of New Jersey. The public reduces the Kushner story to politics. They miss the real estate narrative. Charles Kushner went to federal prison, and his family's empire not only survived but nearly quadrupled in value. In the dynastic real estate world of New Jersey, the Kushner story is not about politics. It is about the terrifying resilience of family-controlled real estate empires and the near impossibility of permanently destroying them. Number 6. The Tepper family. The billion-dollar exile. David Tepper is arguably the greatest hedge fund trader of his generation. He founded Appaloosa Management in Chatham, New Jersey in 1993. running it out of a modest office that belied the billions flowing through it. In 2009, at the absolute bottom of the financial crisis, when the global banking system appeared to be on the verge of total collapse, Tepper made a bet that would become legendary on Wall Street. He invested billions in the preferred stock and debt of Bank of America and Citigroup, the two most hated financial stocks on the planet. When the government bailouts stabilized the banks, Tepper's fund generated approximately $7 billion in profits in a single year. His personal take was estimated at $4 billion, the largest individual payday in hedge fund history at that time. Tepper runs a concentrated portfolio, which means he takes massive, often terrifying positions in a small number of assets. This strategy can produce catastrophic losses, but Tepper mitigates the risk through an almost superhuman ability to read macroeconomic cycles. He does not diversify for safety. He concentrates for maximum impact, then exits before the cycle turns. His net worth, estimated between $20 and $24 billion, is the product of repeatedly making the right call at the exact right moment. In 2016, David Tepper moved his legal residence from New Jersey to Florida. This single decision sent shockwaves through the state government in Trenton. Tepper's annual state income tax payments were so enormous that his departure created a measurable gap in New Jersey's budget projections. Tax analysts described it as one individual single-handedly moving the needle on an entire state's fiscal outlook. He then purchased the Carolina Panthers for $2.275 billion, at the time the highest price ever paid for an NFL franchise. The public sees Tepper as just another Wall Street billionaire. The real story is what his departure revealed about the fragile economics of New Jersey itself. When a single individual's relocation can destabilize a state budget, it exposes the dangerous concentration of wealth that defines the Garden State. New Jersey does not just have rich residents, it is financially dependent on them. Tepper proved that the wealthiest families in New Jersey do not just live in the state, they are the state's economy. Number 5. The Overdeck family, the algorithm king. John Overdeck was a math prodigy who became a teenage gold medalist at the International Mathematical Olympiad before he could legally drive a car. After stints at Amazon, where he was personally hired as a technical advisor by Jeff Bezos and D.E. Shaw, one of the most elite quantitative hedge funds on the planet, Overdeck co-founded 2 Sigma Investments in 2001. 2 Sigma uses artificial intelligence, machine learning, and massive computational power to trade financial markets. The fund now manages approximately $60 billion in assets, making it one of the largest quantitative trading firms in existence. Forbes currently identifies Overdeck, with a net worth of approximately $8 billion, as the single richest person living in New Jersey. Quantitative hedge funds like 2 Sigma are protected by an intellectual moat that is nearly impossible to breach. Their trading algorithms are built on decades of proprietary research, trained on petabytes of historical data, and executed on custom-built technology infrastructure that costs hundreds of millions of dollars to develop. Competitors cannot simply copy the strategy. They would need to replicate the entire scientific ecosystem, including the world-class mathematicians, physicists, and engineers who design the models. Overdeck lives in Millburn, New Jersey, and has used his immense wealth to reshape the educational landscape of the state. He and his wife founded the Overdeck Family Foundation, which has donated over $260 million to math and science education programs across the country. He is not simply giving money away. He is systematically investing in the pipeline of mathematical talent that feeds directly into firms like 2 Sigma. He is funding the creation of his own future workforce. The general public has no idea who John Overdeck is. They cannot name the richest person in their own state. While celebrity billionaires generate headlines with space rockets and social media feuds, Overdeck quietly runs an algorithmic empire from suburban New Jersey that moves billions of dollars through global markets every single day. He proves that the most powerful fortunes in the modern era are not built on oil, steel, or real estate. They are built on pure mathematics. Number 4. The Families of Deal, the hidden dynasty of the Jersey Shore. The tiny borough of Deal, New Jersey, population barely 750, is one of the most concentrated enclaves of generational wealth in the United States. It is the ancestral seat of a network of Syrian Jewish families who emigrated from Aleppo, Syria, beginning in the early 1900s. These families, including the Nakash family who built the Jordache jeans empire, worth approximately $1.9 billion. The Gindey family who developed Century 21 stores, the Sutton family, and the Ajmi family, collectively control an estimated 290 of the borough's 952 properties. They built their fortunes across fashion, retail, real estate, and import-export trading, creating a self-reinforcing economic network that operates largely outside public visibility. The deal community is governed by an extraordinarily strict social code. Business partnerships are formed within the community. Capital circulates among community members. Real estate is bought and sold among families who have known each other for generations. Community bylaws historically discouraged marriage outside the group, preserving both cultural identity and financial concentration. The result is a closed economic ecosystem where wealth does not leak out. It compounds internally, generation after generation. The families of Deal did not just buy beachfront houses. They purchased an entire coastline. Their collective real estate holdings extend across Deal, Long Branch, and the surrounding shore communities, creating a continuous wall of family-controlled oceanfront property stretching for miles along the Jersey Shore. This is not metaphorical. They literally control the physical coast. When luxury developers look at the Jersey Shore, they must negotiate with this network of families for every premium parcel. The public thinks of the Jersey Shore as a place for summer boardwalk entertainment and reality television. They have no idea that one of the most powerful, insular, and wealthy family networks in the country quietly controls miles of the most valuable coastline on the East Coast. The families of Deal do not appear on Forbes lists individually. They do not give interviews. They do not seek publicity. But collectively, they represent a multi-billion-dollar dynasty that has owned the Jersey Shore for over a century. Number 3. The Dorrance family. The soup that built a dynasty. In 1897, a young chemist named John Thompson Dorrance approached his uncle, who owned a small canning company in Camden, New Jersey, with a revolutionary idea. Dorrance had figured out how to condense soup by removing the water before canning, cutting the weight and shipping cost in half while preserving the flavor. He offered to work for just $1 a year if the company would let him implement the process. That company was Campbell's, and Dorrance's invention of condensed soup turned it into one of the most iconic American brands in history. When John Dorrance Sr. died in 1930, he was the third richest man in America. His descendants have maintained their grip on the family fortune ever since. The Dorrance family protected their empire through a voting trust structure that concentrates decision-making power among a small number of family members, regardless of how many descendants hold shares. This mechanism prevented the dilution of control that destroys most family fortunes by the third generation. Even as the Campbell's company evolved into a publicly traded corporation, the Dorrance family maintained an ownership stake large enough to exert decisive influence over major strategic decisions, including blocking hostile takeover attempts. The Dorrance heirs executed one of the most aggressive tax avoidance strategies in American corporate history. Several prominent family members renounced their U.S. citizenship and relocated to Ireland specifically to escape American estate taxes. By moving their legal domicile overseas, they preserved hundreds of millions of dollars that would have otherwise been transferred to the federal government upon their deaths. They chose their fortune over their flag. People see a can of Campbell's soup and think of a simple, affordable, working-class product. They do not realize that behind that red and white label sits a dynasty worth over $17 billion. The Dorrance family's wealth was built not on the soup itself, but on a single scientific insight, removing water, that reduced shipping costs by half. They did not sell food. They sold efficiency. And they have been collecting the dividends from that insight for over 125 years, from their ancestral headquarters in Camden, New Jersey. Number 2. The Johnson family. The pharmaceutical throne. In 1886, 3 brothers, Robert, James, and Edward Johnson, founded Johnson & Johnson in New Brunswick, New Jersey. Their breakthrough was deceptively simple: mass-produced sterile surgical supplies. Before the Johnson brothers, surgery was essentially a death sentence from infection. Their sterile bandages, sutures, and antiseptic products revolutionized medicine. Over the following century, the company expanded into consumer products, pharmaceuticals, and medical devices, becoming one of the largest healthcare corporations on the planet with annual revenues exceeding $85 billion. The founding family's wealth, spread across multiple branches of descendants, is estimated at approximately $16 billion. The Johnson family's wealth is protected by the single most powerful economic moat in capitalism: healthcare. People will cut spending on vacations, luxury goods, and entertainment during a recession. They will never stop buying medication, bandages, and baby products. Johnson & Johnson is one of only 2 companies in the United States that holds a AAA credit rating, meaning it is considered more creditworthy than the United States government itself. The Johnson heirs sit atop a cash-generating fortress that is essentially immune to economic cycles. The Johnson dynasty's most controversial strategic maneuver was the Texas two-step bankruptcy strategy. Facing tens of thousands of lawsuits alleging that their talcum baby powder caused cancer, Johnson & Johnson created a subsidiary in Texas, transferred the talc liabilities into it, and then placed that subsidiary into bankruptcy. This legal maneuver attempted to limit the company's total liability exposure to a finite settlement amount, protecting the vast majority of the corporation's assets and the family's equity. After years of legal battles, the company proposed a nearly $10 billion settlement to resolve the claims. The public thinks of Johnson & Johnson as the friendly company that makes baby shampoo. They picture the gentle, nurturing brand identity that the company has cultivated for over a century. The reality is that behind those soft commercials sits a $400 billion pharmaceutical and medical device juggernaut, anchored in New Brunswick, New Jersey, that has shaped American healthcare policy, patent law, and corporate liability strategy for generations. The Johnson family does not just sell health products, they sit on the pharmaceutical throne of New Jersey. Number 1. The Newhouse family. The silent media empire. Samuel Irving. Newhouse Sr. grew up in extreme poverty in a tenement in Bayonne, New Jersey. His father was a failed businessman. The family was destitute. At the age of 16, Newhouse dropped out of school and took a job managing a failing newspaper in Bayonne. Within months, he had turned it profitable. That experience ignited an insatiable, lifelong obsession with acquiring media properties. Over the following decades, S.I. Newhouse systematically bought newspaper after newspaper across the country, always targeting underperforming publications in mid-sized cities, applying his ruthless cost-cutting discipline and extracting enormous profit margins. He then expanded into magazines, acquiring Condé Nast, the publisher of Vogue, Vanity Fair, The New Yorker, GQ, and Wired. He purchased Random House, making the family the largest book publisher in the United States. The Newhouse family's corporate vehicle, Advance Publications, is now worth an estimated $24 billion. They are the richest family in New Jersey history. The Newhouse family has never taken Advance Publications public, not once. In over 90 years of operation, they have never sold a single share to an outside investor. They have never answered to Wall Street. They have never filed a public earnings report. They structured the company using a complex trust and estate architecture that has been studied by tax attorneys for decades, allowing them to transfer enormous wealth across generations while minimizing tax exposure. Samuel Newhouse Sr. fought the IRS in one of the largest estate tax cases in American history, and the lessons from that battle shaped how the family structures every subsequent transfer. While the media industry collapsed around them, with newspapers dying and magazines bleeding subscribers, the Newhouse family made a single investment that redefined their empire. Advance Publications was an early investor in Reddit, the social media platform. When Reddit went public in March 2024, the Newhouse family's stake had appreciated by an estimated 5,800%. A relatively modest venture investment generated billions in returns, effectively subsidizing the decline of their legacy media properties and ensuring the family's fortune continued to compound into the digital era. They did not just survive the death of print media. They profited from the platform that replaced it. The general public has never heard the name Newhouse. They do not know that a single family from Bayonne, New Jersey controls Vogue, The New Yorker, Vanity Fair, GQ, Reddit, and was once the largest book publisher in America. The Newhouse family does not appear at celebrity events. They do not give television interviews. They do not post on social media. They simply own the platforms that shape what you read, what you wear, what you think, and what you discuss online. They are the most powerful media dynasty in the United States, and they emerged from a failed newspaper in a New Jersey tenement. Samuel Newhouse started with nothing. His descendants control the narrative of American culture. And they did it all without ever letting you learn their name. New Jersey is not a pass-through state. It is a privately owned empire disguised as a suburb. From the Syrian families who literally own the coastline to the Newhouse dynasty that controls what America reads, these 12 families do not just live in New Jersey, they are New Jersey. They own the warehouses that deliver your packages, the cables that carry your entertainment, the hospitals that treat your illnesses, and the media that shapes your reality. Which of these Garden State dynasties holds the most absolute power? The pharmaceutical throne of Johnson & Johnson or the silent media empire of the Newhouse family? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to understand who really controls the world, make sure to like and subscribe to Global Status. We track the money, so you do not have to.